The dinner table was full. Laughter bounced off the walls, glasses clinked, forks scraped against porcelain. Everything about the scene suggested comfort, belonging. Everything except the man sitting at the far end of the table. He sat with his shoulders slightly rounded, hands resting near his plate, food barely touched. Simple shirt, no jewelry, no brand visible. He wasn't late. He never was. He just wasn't considered part of the moment. Across from him, the family leaned toward each other, bodies turned inward, voices overlapping. His mother laughed first, a sharp, confident laugh, polished and loud, as if volume itself was proof of relevance. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, her face stretched smooth by procedures that tried desperately to deny time. She lifted her glass and pointed at him, smiling. "So," she said, dragging the word out, "still cleaning floors?" Laughed with her. Not nervously, not awkwardly, comfortably. A man who believed laughter reinforced hierarchy. "At least someone has to do it," he added, pointing openly now, "right?" The sister didn't miss a beat. Red hair falling over one shoulder, phone resting casually in her hand, she tilted her head and smiled with practiced sarcasm. "You should apply at my company," she said. "We're always hiring people like you." She laughed first, to show it was a joke, to make sure everyone else followed. They did. The man lowered his gaze, not because he was ashamed, because he had learned long ago that silence lasted longer than defense. The sister continued, warming to the attention. I manage an entire region now," she said, leaning back proudly. "Hundreds of employees. Real responsibility." She glanced at him. "Not everyone wants to grow, I guess." The father nodded approvingly. "That's ambition," he said. "Some people are born with it. Some aren't." He didn't look at his son when he said it. He didn't need to. The man took a sip of water, slowly, carefully. He had learned to pace himself in rooms like this. At the edge of the room, the janitor moved quietly. A red-haired man in a simple uniform, pushing a cart along the wall, pretending not to hear. The mother's eyes flicked toward him briefly, then lingered, just a second too long. She smiled faintly. The man noticed. He always did. The sister rolled her eyes and laughed again. "Can you imagine," she said, "working all day and still coming home to this?" She gestured vaguely toward him, not even bothering to use his name. The man's plate remained untouched. The food had gone cold. No one noticed. "What time do you even get up?" the sister asked, smirking. "Or do you just wait until someone tells you where to mop?" The laughter was louder now, more confident. They were comfortable in their cruelty. The man finally looked up, not at her, at the table, at the structure, at the way their bodies leaned toward each other and away from him. He saw the pattern clearly, always had. He smiled faintly, not because it was funny, because it was complete. The mother waved her hand dismissively. "Let him be," she said, still smiling. "Not everyone needs to be successful." The word hung in the air. Successful, defined entirely by their standards. The father raised his glass again. "To ambition," he said. They clinked glasses. The man did not raise his. In the background, the janitor passed behind the mother. She glanced back again, smiled again. The man saw that too. He said nothing. The sister leaned closer to her parents. "Honestly," she whispered loudly enough for him to hear, "I don't know how he lives like that." The man folded his napkin carefully, placed it beside the plate. The movement was precise, intentional. He stood, quietly. No chair scraping, no announcement. He didn't excuse himself. He didn't have to. No one was listening. As he walked away from the table, laughter resumed almost immediately. Relieved. as if his presence had been an inconvenience. In the hallway, he paused briefly, listened, memorized the sound, because moments like this were data. And data, he knew, always mattered later. The building woke up before the city did. Lights flickered on floor by floor, revealing polished corridors, empty offices, and the quiet hum of machines preparing for another day of order. The man arrived before everyone else. He always did. Not because he was required to, because it allowed him to see things clearly before noise diluted them. He changed into his uniform without hesitation. Simple, clean, unremarkable. The kind of clothing that made people look past you instead of at you. That was useful. He moved through the halls with practiced ease, not rushed, not careless. Every motion had intention. When a machine malfunctioned, he noticed immediately. When a corner was missed, he corrected it. Not because someone would inspect it, because systems reveal themselves in details. Other janitors nodded as he passed. Some greeted him quietly, out of fear. Out of respect, they didn't fully understand. At the same time, in another part of the city, his sister was already late. She rushed through the glass doors of the regional office, phone pressed to her ear, irritation written clearly across her face. "I don't care what the numbers say," she snapped. "Just fix it." She disconnected without waiting for a response. Her office was spacious, glass walls, modern furniture, awards on the shelf, all bearing the company's logo. A logo she admired deeply. A logo she believed represented her success. She dropped her bag on the desk and opened her email. Complaints, reports, missed targets. She sighed loudly. "Unbelievable," she muttered, as if chaos were someone else's responsibility. Back at the building, the man received a phone call. He stepped into a quiet stairwell before answering. "Yes," he said calmly. A pause. "I saw the report," he continued. "No, don't escalate yet." Another pause. "Let me handle it." He never responds anyway. The room went quiet. The man reviewed a digital dashboard on his phone during a break. Metrics updated in real time. He scrolled carefully, adjusted parameters, sent a short message. Nothing flashy, just correction. Within minutes, systems began to stabilize. Orders rerouted. Delays reduced. No announcements, no applause. Just quiet efficiency. The sister, meanwhile, congratulated herself for pushing her team. She leaned against her desk, smiling at her reflection in the glass. "Leadership," she whispered to herself. At lunch, the man sat alone in the break room. He ate slowly, methodically. Across the table, two younger employees talked about the company. "Have you ever met the CEO?" one asked. The other shook his head. "But I heard he started from nothing." The man listened, said nothing. The sister met friends for coffee later that afternoon. They praised her success, her position, her lifestyle. She laughed easily. "My brother?" she scoffed when they asked about him. "Oh, he never wanted more." She sipped her drink. Some people are comfortable staying small. At the end of the day, the man stayed late. Not because he was asked, because something still felt off. He reviewed one last report, caught an inconsistency, corrected it, saved the company thousands without anyone knowing. He removed his gloves carefully, washed his hands, left the building quietly. At home, the family gathered again. The sister spoke excitedly about her tough day. The parents listened proudly. The man sat silently. "You wouldn't understand," said dismissively, laughing. "It's stressful, running things." He nodded. She smiled, satisfied. That night, alone in his room, he opened a notebook. Not a diary, a ledger. He reviewed figures, plans, timelines. Everything was aligned. He closed the notebook, turned off the light, and slept calmly. Because he knew something they didn't. Titles impress people, but systems obey only those who understand them. The problem didn't announce itself. It never does. It began as a delay, then another, then a pattern no one wanted to name. By mid-morning, calls were coming in faster than the sister could deflect them. Clients complained, contracts stalled, teams waited for direction that never arrived. She stood in the center of her glass office, phone pressed to her ear, voice sharp with irritation. "I don't need explanations," she snapped. "I need results." She hung up and paced. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not under her watch. Across the city, in a quieter building with less glass and more function, the man noticed the shift immediately. Numbers misaligned, response times stretched, human error compounded by poor coordination. He didn't panic. He never did. He walked to a workstation and logged in. Not as an employee, as an observer. Headquarters. Tension thickened the air. A senior manager entered the sister's office without knocking. "We're losing control," he said quietly. She waved him off. "Everyone relax," she replied loudly enough for others to hear. "This is temporary." But her fingers trembled slightly as she adjusted her jacket. An emergency meeting was called. Executives gathered. Regional managers joined remotely. The screen filled with anxious faces. No one smiled. "We need leadership," someone said. The sister straightened. "I'm handling it." Another pause. "Where is the CEO?" a voice asked. Silence. She forced a laugh. "He doesn't attend these things," she said. "He trusts us." No one responded. In the janitorial closet, the man took a call. "Yes," he said calmly. "No, I understand the risk." A pause. "Schedule the meeting." Pause. "I'll be there." He ended the call. Removed his gloves. Straightened his shirt. The meeting room filled slowly. People whispered. Tension crept across the polished table. The sister sat near the front, chin raised, rehearsing authority. The doors opened. Conversation stopped. The man entered. Not in a uniform. Not in a suit. Something in between. Clean. Intentional. Unmistakably composed. The room didn't recognize him immediately. That was the strangest part. He took a seat at the head of the table. Not assertively. Naturally. As if the space had been waiting for him. A few executives exchanged confused glances. The sister frowned. "Excuse me," she said sharply. "This meeting is private." The man looked at her. Calmly, directly, for the first time in years. "It's not," he said, replied. The room froze. A senior board member cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should begin," he said carefully. He looked at the man. "All due respect," he added, "this seat is reserved." The man nodded. "I know." He placed a folder on the table, opened it, turned the first page. The board member's face drained of color. He leaned forward, then stood. "Everyone," he said quietly, "please listen." The sister's breath caught. She recognized the tone, not surprise, recognition. The man spoke without raising his voice. "I founded this company 20 years ago," he said. "I built it from a single contract and a borrowed truck." A murmur rippled through the room. The sister stared. Her mind rejected the words before her ears could process them. "I stepped back intentionally," he continued, "because growth requires systems, not visibility." He turned another page. Charts, figures, decisions signed with a familiar name she had never questioned. The sister stood abruptly. "That's impossible," she said, laughing nervously. "You're a janitor." The word echoed. Ugly, small, final. The man looked at her. Not angrily, not triumphantly, with quiet curiosity. "As long as the floors were clean," he said evenly. No one ever asked who owned the building. Silence swallowed the room. The board members spoke again. He is the CEO. No embellishment, no ceremony, just fact. The sister's legs gave slightly. She grabbed the chair beside her. Memories collided violently. Her praise of the visionary founder, her complaints about his absence, her certainty that power belonged to those who displayed it. The man closed the folder. "Here to punish anyone," he said. "I'm here to correct a failure." He looked around the room. At every level, no one interrupted. No one could. The sister sat back down slowly. Her mouth opened, closed. No words formed. For the first time in her life, status failed her. The man stood. "We'll begin restructuring immediately," he said, "and we'll start by addressing leadership competency." He didn't look at her again. He didn't need to. Outside the room, whispers exploded. Inside, something irreversible had occurred. Not revenge, reclassification. The man walked out calmly. The building felt different now. He had always owned it. But now, they knew. The house felt different that night. Not quieter, heavier. As if the walls themselves had learned something the people inside were still trying to avoid. The dinner table was set again. Same chairs, same plates, same room. But nothing else was the same. The sister arrived first. She sat down slowly, posture stiff, eyes avoiding the far end of the table. For the first time, she didn't touch her phone. She didn't trust herself to look at it. The parents followed. The father cleared his throat unnecessarily, adjusting his chair twice before sitting. The mother fixed her hair out of habit, then stopped midway, realizing how pointless the gesture felt now. No one laughed. No one spoke. The man entered last. He wore the same simple clothes as always. No suit, no display, no announcement. He took the same seat at the end of the table. They had laughed at. The seat they had pointed at. The mother opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. "We didn't know," she said weakly. The sentence collapsed under its own weight. The father leaned forward, hands clasped tightly. "You should have told us," he said. The man looked at him calmly. "Would it have changed how you treated me?" he asked. The question wasn't sharp. It was surgical. The father looked away. The sister finally spoke. Her voice was quieter than anyone remembered. "You let me humiliate you," she said. "You let me build my life, believing I was better than you." The man nodded once. "Yes." She frowned. "Why?" He didn't answer immediately. He looked at the table, at the place where laughter used to live. "At some point," he said slowly, "I stopped needing to correct people. I needed to understand them. Period." The mother's eyes filled. "You destroyed us," she whispered. He shook his head. "No," he replied. "I revealed you." Silence returned. Thicker this time. Permanent. The sister swallowed. "Am I fired?" she asked quietly. The man met her gaze. "No," he said. Her breath caught. "You're reassigned," he continued, "to a position where results matter more than titles." She nodded slowly, relief mixed with shame. The father stood abruptly. "You embarrassed this family," he snapped. The man looked up at him. "No," he said calmly. "You embarrassed yourselves when you believed worth needed proof." The father sat back down, defeated. The mother wiped her eyes. "You could have had everything," she said. The man leaned back slightly. "I already did," he replied. Stood. Not in anger, in completion. "I won't stay for dinner," he said. No sarcasm, no bitterness, just fact. As he walked toward the door, the sister spoke again, barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry. He paused, just for a moment. "I know," he said, and continued walking. The door closed softly behind him. No dramatic slam, no final look back. At the table, no one touched their food. The laughter never returned. Outside, the city moved as it always had. Indifferent, fair. The man stepped into the night, not as a janitor, not as a CEO, but as someone who finally no longer needed to sit at a table where he was never respected. They laughed because they saw a uniform. They were silent when they learned who chose to wear it.